Hello, Amelia. My mother-in-law's voice crackled through the phone, sharp and demanding. We've moved to a condominium. You contribute nothing, so you should get down on your knees, apologize, and serve us, she declared. I tightened my grip on the receiver, my pulse quickening with shock and fury. The silence of my empty home pressed in on me. Something felt terribly wrong. Even my work documents and computer were missing. Heart pounding, I dialed Xavier, desperate for answers. His voice was cold and detached. Mom already told me everything. You need to apologize first, he said curtly. Something inside me snapped. My name is Amelia, and I live with my husband, Xavier. When we first married, I never imagined things would turn out this way. We moved into a spacious two-story house with many rooms, believing it would be our perfect home. 3 months into our marriage, Xavier suggested inviting his parents over. I want my parents to see where we live, he said. Your parents are gone, but mine are still here. I want to reassure them that we're doing well. I agreed without hesitation. Having lost my parents years before, I understood the importance of family. My father had died in a tragic accident when I was in high school, and my mother, who worked tirelessly to support me, eventually collapsed from exhaustion. Despite efforts to save her, she never recovered. Determined to stand on my own, I built a life for myself. Then I met Xavier through a blind date arranged by a college friend. I had always wanted to marry someone who valued family. Xavier adored his parents, even crying when he heard mine had passed. I mistook his tears for empathy, believing he mourned the fact that I never got to care for my parents the way he did. I thought I had found someone who truly understood me. With my own family gone, I wanted to be a devoted daughter-in-law to my husband's parents. But they crushed my sincerity without hesitation. A week after Xavier invited his parents over, they arrived. My, this house is quite old, my mother-in-law commented, rubbing her chin. I heard it wasn't new, but seeing it in person is different. She wasn't wrong, the house had been built years ago. I chose not to respond. Right? Xavier chimed in. I've been thinking the same thing, Mom. It really is outdated. He had never mentioned this to me before, but I brushed it off. Then my father-in-law spoke. If you plan to live here long-term, wouldn't a new house or a condo have been a better choice? Why this place? Xavier glanced at me. I opened my mouth to explain, but he cut me off. Amelia insisted on this house and wouldn't hear otherwise, he said. Since we're newlyweds, I figured I should listen to her, so here we are. His words painted me as selfish, as if I had forced him into an undesirable situation. My in-laws exchanged puzzled glances. I wanted to set the record straight, but before I could, Xavier clapped me on the back and cheerfully added, "But we're doing great, Mom. No need to worry." Their concerned expressions unsettled me. After a brief tour, my in-laws left for the theater. I never got the chance to correct Xavier's misleading statements. I had no idea that this small misunderstanding would spiral into something far worse. The signs, however, were already there. Soon after, my mother-in-law began calling, always while I was at work. Amelia, as someone who's been married for years, let me give you some advice, she began. Don't expect your husband to cater to your every whim. You grew up without parents spoiling you, but marriage isn't about being indulged. A wife must be mature. Reading her messages after a long day at work left me exhausted. Why do I have to deal with this? I sighed, realizing the root of the problem. Xavier's words had given her the wrong impression. When he spoke about our home, he made it sound like I had forced the decision on him. I began to suspect he had cut me off intentionally when I tried to clarify. When I asked him to correct the misunderstanding, he frowned. Why don't you just let it go? Mom and Dad agree with me. Don't overthink it. And don't call them about this, okay? If you suddenly say something different, it'll confuse them, and they won't even be able to enjoy their meals. That was a lie. I had watched them eat heartily while I talked about my late parents. There was no way something so trivial would ruin their appetite. Still, I didn't want to stir up trouble, so I let it go. I had no intention of living with my in-laws and assumed our interactions would be limited to holidays. But the situation worsened when my mother-in-law started lecturing me over the phone. I ignored her messages, choosing to confront Xavier instead. Xavier, your mother has been sending me messages like this, I said, handing him my phone. His eyes widened. He hadn't expected me to show him proof. All right, he said hastily. I'll talk to her. He immediately called his mother, but what he said shocked me. Mom, please stop sending Amelia weird messages. She's giving me a hard time about it. I stood there speechless. I had never once told him I was upset, only that the messages needed to stop. But his words made it sound like I was being unreasonable, ensuring my in-laws would resent me even more. At that moment I realized I had lost faith in Xavier. The dream of being a devoted daughter-in-law shattered before my eyes. I had been working from home, hoping to avoid unnecessary interactions. But one day my phone buzzed with yet another message from my mother-in-law. Xavier told me you're always at home. Irma and I are going to the theater tonight, so I'll stay at your house until then. A chill ran down my spine. I quickly replied, I work from home. I won't be able to entertain you both because I'll be busy. Her response was swift. You're not really working, you're just staying home. Don't lie just because you don't want to entertain us. That attitude is exactly what I don't like about you. A housewife should know her place. Xavier knew I worked from home, so why had he told her otherwise? At first I thought it was a misunderstanding. Now I was certain he was doing this on purpose. Just as I tried to shake off my frustration, the intercom buzzed. Sure enough, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, Irma, were at the door. I invited them inside, thinking that maybe Irma, being younger, would understand my work-from-home business and help explain it to my mother-in-law. Mom, I said firmly, as I mentioned in my message, I work from home. I can't entertain you both while I'm working. My mother-in-law sighed dramatically and snapped, enough with the excuses. Just go serve the tea. She shoved me toward the kitchen. I glanced at my sister-in-law, Irma, hoping for some support, but she was too busy on her phone, not even glancing at me. I'd like a Coke, she muttered. We don't have Coke, I replied. Irma sulked on the sofa and grumbled. Then just give me some juice or whatever. You're living off my brother's money, so at least entertain us. You're his servant, she spat, glaring at me. I was taken aback. Yes, I married Xavier, but that didn't mean I was some kind of servant to his family. I shot back, I don't know what Xavier told you, but I'm not living off his money. I'm working, and you're interrupting me. I knew I had to speak up, or they would continue to treat me poorly. I grabbed Irma's arm, pulled her to her feet, and pushed her toward the door. Hey, I'm Xavier's sister. How dare you treat me like this and throw me out? You're a terrible wife, she yelled. Then I showed my mother-in-law the door too. She glared at me, face red with anger, and shouted, I went out of my way to welcome someone as poor as you, and this is how you repay me? If Xavier abandoned you, you'd starve. I stared coldly at both of them. I can survive without Xavier. You've been tricked by him, treating me like a servant, you fools. I yelled before slamming the door shut. They screamed outside for a while, but I ignored them. It wasn't long before they left, probably worried about what the neighbors might think. I wasn't concerned. I knew the neighbors would be more on my side than Xavier's, no matter how loud they were. Later that day, Xavier came home and recounted what his mother and Irma had told him. I can't be with someone who neglects my family. If this happens again, I'll divorce you immediately. So sign these papers, he said, handing me divorce papers with his signature already on them. I didn't want a divorce, but by this point I'd had enough of Xavier's lies and the way he undermined me. I signed the papers without hesitation, stashing them away in the cabinet. Later that night I took them out and kept them with me. The next day I went to a meeting. When I returned, the house was empty. My room was untouched, but my work documents and computer were gone. I was about to call Xavier when I got a call from my mother-in-law. Hello, Amelia, she hissed over the phone. Xavier, Irma, and I are in a condo now. You're useless, so you should apologize and serve us. I won't tell you where we are until you get a real job. You should realize how helpless you are, she finished. Something inside me snapped. I hung up and immediately called Xavier. He picked up. Mom told me what's going on. You need to apologize to us first, he said. I cut him off. I'll file for divorce, and if you don't return my belongings, I'll file a police report. The furniture in the house was mine originally, so I'll report that too. If we let this go, you'll all be treated as criminals. I hung up, then quickly submitted the divorce papers to the municipal office, ensuring they couldn't be revoked without my consent. Later, While relaxing in a coffee shop, I received news that Xavier had arranged for a contractor to return my belongings. The furniture had already been put back while I was out. When I got home, Xavier was there, finishing up with the last of my things. I turned on my computer. "What did you want with my computer?" I asked. Xavier, sweating, replied, "Irma wanted a new computer, and we thought yours was a good one." I checked the computer. "Well, I hope you didn't erase any work data, because if you did, my company would sue you and your family," I said coldly. Xavier went pale. "By the way, I noticed you moved to a townhouse. Where did the money come from? You told me you couldn't afford rent because you owed $20,000 and were paying it off. Now you've moved into a house I inherited, and I've been supporting you. Where did you get the money for this place?" I demanded. He shifted uncomfortably. "Actually, I didn't have any debt. My parents wanted to live in a condo, so I was saving up for that," he mumbled. I sighed heavily. "I'll get a lawyer. I'm claiming my share of the money I've contributed toward our expenses, and I'll charge you for the money you always said you didn't have." He cried, but I wasn't about to forgive him. During the meeting with my lawyer, Xavier agreed to pay me a significant amount to keep me from exposing the lies he told. But after losing all his money, Xavier couldn't afford the townhouse anymore. Every time my lawyer called him, he used paid time off, stalling the process. Eventually his boss asked, "Why are you taking so much time off?" Xavier told him it was for meetings with me and my lawyer. Shortly after, his boss called me. "I can't believe you get alimony after Xavier cheated," he said. "Is Xavier lying to you too?" I asked, sighing. I gave him my name and suggested he look me up online. His boss apologized immediately. As a businesswoman earning $600,000 a year, I wasn't exactly a stranger online. I explained Xavier's actions, and his boss had no choice but to believe me, especially since we did business together. Xavier's salary was cut, and he was demoted, unable to pay for his apartment. Faced with financial ruin, Xavier eventually admitted the truth to his family. The following day, my phone buzzed nonstop. I had 47 missed calls from my mother-in-law. She was relentless. I was busy working, as I'd told her, but she didn't understand. I sighed and blocked her number. The next day, my in-laws and Irma showed up at my door. "Xavier's sorry," his mother began. "Stop making it harder for him," Irma added. "I didn't know my brother didn't make much money. He always seemed well off. If you want, you can come live with us," she offered. I opened the upstairs window, picked up my phone, and dialed the police. "Hello, there are 3 people causing a disturbance in front of my house," I said. They left quickly. Now they have no place to live. I still reside in the house my parents left me, but I'm considering moving to a condo or even a 1-bedroom apartment. Thanks for watching. See you next time and stay amazed.